Welcome to the Murphy, Sam, and Jodi After the Show podcast.
I don't know how you guys feel when you have ever witnessed or seen someone's home or any sort of dwelling where there's stuff everywhere and there's stuff piled up outside.
You mean like hoarding kind of stuff, or?
I guess hoarding is what I'm referring to. But anytime I bring it up because I have always had an idea in my mind, I guess, a judgment of go clean that up.
Yeah.
Like, to me, you know how it's always felt to me, Murphy, to walk into a house.
Yeah, it makes you claustrophobic.
It does. Yeah. When I go estate sailing with Phoebe, if there's too much stuff, I'm like, I'm going to be out here waiting for you. I can't be surrounded by so much stuff. There's something about it that I can't breathe.
Isn't it weird? Because I'm not claustrophobic.
Okay.
But when I'm in situations like that,
Stuff.
it's just like I can't think. I have to get out. I do wonder why.
Mm-hmm. Psychological.
Yeah. But
because
it's like,
the stuff is
go.
not going to keep you from breathing. The stuff is not interfering with your space. If you can stand there and breathe, you're fine.
Yeah.
I can do it at an estate sale.
Mm-hmm.
It is when it's how somebody lives day after day that it gets confusing.
Counter to that, we all know it's a fact, and maybe you've never thought of it, but when you walk into a room, let's just say when you go stay at a hotel, you walk into the room, it's a clean, crisp, wide open space, and your mind is less cluttered because there's not a bunch of clutter around. And it's a fact that if you clean up your spaces, you will have a more clear mind. It's so crazy how much the mind has to do with your spaces and what is in them.
I think that's why there have been so many books on simplicity and
tidying up.
Right, and minimalism. That's why I think easy to say, minimalism has become a thing today for that same reason, because you're overwhelmed by the things that you can see and actually the things you can't see that take up like mental clutter. So I think even more so now than ever before, a combination of the physical and the mental clutter, we're kind of in a declutter space, or maybe we're more sensitive to what you're seeing or saying, Jodi. You know,
I think I've told you guys the story of our oldest Taylor helping me change my perspective on that. When we're on the way to visit my mom, there is a house that we pass where there is a ton of stuff in the yard, in the carport, everywhere. And it's a corner lot. So on the front and the sides, there's stuff everywhere. And I've said stuff in the past about it. I don't remember exactly what I've said, but she from the back seat once said, "Mom, they may have a disorder. It's someone who may have a disorder." And I thought, so correct and true, and let's be empathetic to that.
Yeah. Well, and the house that you're talking about also, if it were in a subdivision, the restrictions of the subdivision would never allow for that, or the neighbors would never allow for that. Right.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's not in a subdivision.
I've never thought of that.
I know, exactly. See, she's taught me to be empathetic. And this was when she was taking her college course on disorders.
Yeah.
And she said that whoever is doing that, they may not be able to stop. It may be worse inside. And I was like, oh, gosh.
You've watched Hoarders, haven't you?
No, I can't.
I have watched a couple episodes just to see what it is. And some of the people, as they follow them through their house, you can see that there's something
wrong.
It's not just like, oh, yeah, it got out of control, I need to clean it up. It's like, no,
right.
we can't get rid of that. And this has to be here because I might need. And it's like, wow.
Our assumption can be that it's a laziness or a hoarding thing, but it could be a disorder.
Yeah, I mean,
we should feel empathy.
It could be a disorder that is a control mechanism of some sort.
Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
I bring it up because yesterday afternoon I went to my mom's house and met my brother, and he and I, and this is not the same situation at all. Her yard is not that way. Her house is not that way.
Right.
But her carport has started to collect things, and she doesn't like it, and she's not really able to move heavy things like that. She has some health problems. And so I called my brother a couple of weeks ago. I said, let's clean out her old shed. She has a storage building that needs to be cleaned out. And once it's cleaned out, we have to assess whether it needs to be replaced or some of the wood is rotting or not. So and Murphy was like, I don't want you to get hurt. Please don't go out there and do that. And I'm like, hello, I'm a country girl. Don't forget.
Yeah, I know. I was worried there would be sharp things in there,
No.
or that the floor might be rotted, and you put your foot through the wrong thing.
I didn't though. I was very careful about where I stepped. We haven't even really talked much about it, but I did. I spent 2 hours with him yesterday there.
Anything rabid?
What?
Anything rabid in the shed?
What does that mean?
Anything with rabies?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
No animals, no critters?
Well, you could see evidence of some critters.
Okay.
But no critters, no. But you could see where there were places where critters had slipped in to try to get away from weather and things like that. And those things will be addressed because that's where we'll need to do some repair. We've already seen that. But I bring it up because I understand better now, the whole the problem it presents. All of the things in the shed belong to my mother, and all the things in the carport that are bothering her. The reason she wants the shed cleaned out is because the stuff that's in the carport, she wants to go in the shed.
Yeah.
And what was in the shed is really most certainly trash. And we are working on going through all of it, making the piles, contacting the city. When does it get picked up? There's just a lot. And me, you know my way of being like a tornado of picking up things and cleaning up. That's how I keep things tidy. That's not how this is going to go. And I learned that quickly. Thanks to my brother, when I rolled up right before it was like 3:30 in the afternoon, he had already started. There was already a lot of stuff out. He was already working. He was sweating. He had gloves on. He had contractor bags. I'd roll up. Contractor bags are a part of it. You don't just throw stuff out. So I put the gloves on. Thank you for letting me borrow your work gloves, Murphy. And we got to work. And we spent almost 2 hours sweating, pulling stuff out. And that's when I realized this is not a one-day thing.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to meet on Wednesdays until it's done for an hour or two. And when I say done, the next time we get together, we'll probably clean out the rest of the stuff in the shed, and the shed will be empty.
Man, how big is this shed?
It's big. I mean, it's a big shed.
Yeah.
And she has lived there for a very long time. The shed flooded. And so a lot of the stuff in there not only has to go, it doesn't smell good. And that's another reason my brother's like, we're not doing this for longer than an hour or two at a time because we're not going to breathe this. And he's correct about that.
Well, that's the reason I think it needs to just go. I think it's beyond repair.
You haven't been in there, though. There's not a lot of it that's fully damaged. It's the kind of wood that just dried out.
Is it metal on the inside, too?
No.
What kind of wall is it?
I don't know. You're asking me questions. We're going to pull away the wall and check the studs later.
Well, so it's got wall. Yeah,
Okay.
that's thing.
That will have mildew and
We'll see.
stuff.
We're going to see. Before we make a decision, we're going to actually bring somebody out who's like a professional. But my point being all the stuff, at a couple of points, my mom came out onto the carport and I could just see her having that mental thing of what to do with this. Like part of her wants to keep this. And she even said, what do I do with this? And I said, it's not my decision to make. It's your decision to make. If you want it hauled off, we will do it. But you need to make that decision. And it's 100 million decisions.
Yeah.
But it's just going to be a long process. So, I like things quick, but that's not how this is going to be.
Yeah.
And clearing some clutter for her.
Have you given her any suggestions like, Mom,
Yes.
if you haven't touched this
I said those words.
2 years,
I said those words. I said those words. If you haven't needed it in these years, and for her, it's been 8.
Yeah.
For some of the stuff, you don't need it.
Right.
And she agreed.
Yeah. And,
But I'm not coming in heavy-handed. It's her stuff. I want to be respectful of that, too.
that is really a very hard thing to do. I've started cleaning out some stuff, like stuff that I've always just like, I'll just put that in my closet. I'll just put that in my... And I go in there, and it's like, I need to do something with that, and you do something with that. And after a few years, it's like, I haven't touched
And
this.
you don't even see it anymore.
So Goodwill, here it comes.
Right.
Good.
It's hard to get yourself motivated to give up that stuff that you think you need, but it feels good when you do it.
Right. When you get rid of that stuff that you don't need, you give yourself a gift of the space. Just because you have space in your home does not mean you need to fill it.
Yeah, and tell her this, too. Tell her, do everything she has to do, and then in 3 months, think about it again.
One more time.
Did I miss any of that stuff? Good, I made the right choice.
Nice.
That's why it took 2.5 years for us to clean up my late dad's house, because with both my parents gone, and that was my first experience with having to do that. You're talking about 50 years or almost 60 years worth of stuff
And a whole house.
that they had, and it's complicated by the sentimental value of some things. Although I think it was easier for us to get rid of some things if my dad had still been alive and we would have suggested this pile of things needs to go, he probably wouldn't have. There would have been a reason he would have wanted to kept it for some reason, because his things, I don't know, they just didn't really throw away things unless they were broken. But you do have to give it time. That's a really good suggestion for Jodi's mom, because if you think about it once and actually put a time frame and you come back and you realize you're not going to use it, you're not going to miss it as much as you think you are. You're not going to.
And you'll realize a year later,
right.
In fact, didn't need it.
And I'm about to do the second round of going through things from my dad's house that I brought home, and there aren't too many things left because I actually wound up purging some of those things or donating them already, realizing, okay, I don't need to keep these anymore. It's not going to bring him back. It's not going to bring my mom back. But it's very easy to put it on the shelf, like you said, out of sight, out of mind, and then the next time you look at it, it's just too inconvenient to go back through. I don't feel like opening a box right now. You know what I mean? So putting it off, the postponing part, makes it challenging anyway.
Right,
If you have a control disorder or something like that, I'm sure that makes it even worse. You're not going to give it another thought because it becomes overwhelming.
Or if you can't make decisions,
right?
If you have difficulty making even small decisions, that makes it more difficult. One of the things I'm going to try to suggest to my mother is that I want you to imagine this space clear, like in the carport. I want you to imagine this clear, because that also has a feeling, and it's a wonderful feeling.
It's amazing.
Wonderful.
Yeah, because now you got all that room you can fill back up with more stuff.
Stop.
Missed any part of the show? Get it all on the Murphy, Sam, and Jodi podcast.